Welcome to Discovering the Wellness Formula. I'm Ashley Glantz.
And I'm Dustin Messick, and we are both registered dietitian nutritionists. We're here to promote wellness through the lens of nutrition and so much more, helping you navigate the journey by bridging the gap between reliable information and misinformation.
Together, we'll provide you with a clear blueprint of knowledge and actionable steps to support your health and well-being.
And here's our disclaimer. The information provided on this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or health concerns.
Our podcast, Discovering the Wellness Formula, dives into all domains of health, whether it's discussing mental health strategies, nutrition tips, fitness approaches, or exploring how relationships and personal growth contribute to our overall well-being. We aim to make wellness more accessible and inclusive for everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Discovering the Wellness Formula. We have an incredible guest here today, Ashley Kwanten. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm just going to do a little intro. As a Los Angeles native, Ashley has always known that music was a crucial part of her life. After seeing some of the world's greatest talents and festivals come through California, Ashley wasn't content with just simply dancing the night away. She sees the opportunity to work on the management and business side of the industry, and started a long-standing love affair with her artists and their music. From being on the road for sold-out headlining tours to managing the release and promotion for a platinum-selling #1 single to winning a shiny gold Grammy, Ashley has seen some shit. She spent close to a decade working in the thriving music industry before launching Wildrock Wellness. As a key member of management teams for artists like Portugal, The Mand, and Big Wild, Ashley saw firsthand the lack of wellness support and programs for musicians. At the core, Wildrock's mission is to nurture the connection between nutrition and creative excellence. Ashley helps guide artists to their highest level of performance and recovery through personalized, accessible, and honest wellness plans. She leads Wildrock through a lens of humanity and unique understanding of the demand for deep health within the music industry. She graduated with her BA in Health and Wellness from the University of Arizona and is a certified nutrition health coach from Precision Nutrition. FYI, she has not stopped dancing. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you. That was beautifully done. I don't think anyone's ever read my bio to me, so that was very nice. Thank you.
I know, you're like, dang. I love it. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We are just so excited to sit down and have just some awesome conversation today.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very, very excited. I've only had these conversations about my business with friends and clients, so to now put it in a place where it will live and I can share with people is very exciting.
We are excited to have you. We want to kind of kick it off with what really inspired you to start maybe your wellness journey, and how did that translate into working with touring artists?
Yeah, I mean, my journey is very specific. It actually started with touring musicians. And when I was in my early 20s, I got an opportunity to work at a very thriving music management company in Los Angeles. And I was currently in school at the time trying to get my bachelor's in music journalism. But the opportunity was just so good. Like I physically could not pass it up. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take some extended leave off of school, and I'm just going to go head first into this management. And what turned into something that I originally thought it was going to be maybe a year, 2 years of an experience. And that turned into almost 10 years of working in artist management. And so there, I was working with heavy touring artists. They were touring 6 to 8 months out of the year. They were releasing, recording music. And so I was immersed in different types of musicians and how their processes were, specifically in the touring space. And I was young, so I was also engaging in probably very unhealthy practices. I was eating terribly. I was not sleeping. I was partying, like doing the normal young 20, working in the music business type of life. And when that started, I started experiencing my own health issues, and I was starting to really not feel great. And what that turned into was me going to doctor after doctor to try to see if I could find ways to help me. And it basically got to a point where I became completely resistant to all the antibiotics that they were prescribing me to, because I was doing them so frequently and so consistently, because I was not being healed. And that was a pretty crazy moment for me. At the time, it felt like I was in, never going to get an answer, and I felt so defeated. But then it also was kind of that moment where I was forced to find other forms of healing. And that's when I decided to change my diet. I looked at supplementations. I looked at, personal lifestyle choices, all these things that they say can make you feel better. And the craziest thing was, after a few months, I not only was able to heal myself, but I was also able to prevent these things occurring ever again. And so that was a pretty big moment for me. And meanwhile, this is all happening, I'm still working in music industry, and I'm starting to then see such unhealthy patterns that I was also experiencing in my clients. And it took me on this weird journey of like, okay, well, my artists are struggling just like I was, and they're looking for ways to heal. They're looking for help, and there has to be someone that does this. So I started searching. I looked for any, therapists, nutritionists, different types of healers that were knowledgeable in the wellness space, but also knowledgeable in the music industry, because it's such a specific beast. And I could not find a single person. And so I decided to basically just say, fuck it. And I quit my job. I went back to school. I started dreaming up Wildrock Wellness, and that is kind of where this whole business started. And it's now been 2 years, a little over 2 years since launch, and it's been pretty amazing. Great.
That's an incredible story.
Yeah.
And for you to be able to obviously see hey, these artists are out here and not getting the support they need. They're not having any direction. And like you were saying, it is a lifestyle, people touring and they're on the road and not sleeping, and, but it's real. You experience it firsthand with your artists.
Yeah. And one of the hardest parts for me too is I'm a very empathetic person. I cry over everything. And so what was so hard for me is I was working with artists for 5 to 10 years. And so they become like family to me, And so at the end of the day, I was the one that was putting them on those tours. I was the one that was telling them they needed to wake up at 5 a.m. after playing a show till 2 a.m. to go do promo for 6 hours, and then maybe take a nap, but maybe just drink coffee to then do it all over again. So I was like, technically, that's me doing that to them. So I need to see if there's a way that I can now be on the other end, helping them in a different way to do this whole craziness of touring.
And being able to look at it through the lens of support, like you were saying, but also different facets. Like you were saying, nourishment, hydration, sleep, all of that plays into your overall wellness, and be that empathetic and be able to see hey, these guys need a little bit more, that's really incredible.
Yeah. And I think that it's, we are very complex beings. We are very complex. There's different things that we need. But at the end of the day, it really is your mental, your physical, and your emotional. And so when you break it down into those and then see the lifestyle that they're living, it's really simple to then create tools for them to use to just live a bit healthier. So that has, I think, been the biggest part for me, is to notice that and then try to put those individual tools in for each person.
Mm-hmm. And the healthier the artist is, right? The better they're going to be able to sustain their careers, right? Their energy, their mood, their focus, all of that.
Yeah, it's longevity. At the end of the day, it's an investment in your health, which means it's an investment in your career. You don't want to burn out. You don't want to become unhappy with your job. You don't want to sometimes, I've seen it with my clients. I've seen it with other people. You end up in rehab. There could be worse consequences that happen from this. So it's an investment. And a lot of the time, it seems a lot harder to achieve at that moment. But when you are given the support, the direct support, as well as the tools from someone that understands exactly what you're going through, it becomes a lot easier to attain.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And with you having over a decade of experience on the road in it with the artists, like who better than you to be able to kind of help direct them, but also support them. And kind of fast forward now 2 years. So now you are obviously the owner of Wildrock Wellness, wellness coaching for artists on the road, but you're also a mom. And so for some of our listeners, we really want to be able to talk a little bit about too, like the balance between being like a working kind of mom, like wellness coach.
I mean, I will say it, and I know every mom out there can agree with me. Being a mom is the most challenging job. It is the most rewarding, but it is the most challenging job. And so I truly don't think you will ever reach total balance of working and being a mother, because kids are wild, every day is different. And I always kind of like to see it kind of like a yoga practice. You never achieve perfection. You just continue on that practice to be like, to help you get a little bit better at it, So that's kind of how I see it. And one thing that has been super helpful for me is I chose to do a natural home birth with my son. And that meant I birthed him in my bedroom. I had 0 medication, 0 interventions. And that was a pretty intense experience in the terms of you have to really surrender to your body, surrender to your feelings and your emotions when it's coming to that time. And it's not only something that I used while I was pregnant, I used it a lot. That word surrender, I used a lot when I was giving birth. And then when I became a mom, like early postpartum, that's a really hard time. And to just surrender to the fact that you will never have the answers. You will never have perfect, you will not always eat perfectly and sleep great. Like that's not possible. So surrendering is a big one, as well as being a working mom. And a tool that has saved me has been Vedic meditation. I learned she was my birthing doula, but she also is a Vedic meditation teacher. And I did a week course with her, and that truly transformed the way that I was able to stop in my day, take a moment to find that moment for deep relaxation and a way to rid my body of extreme stressors. That has been honestly a game changer. And I could not recommend a daily meditation practice more for that specific reason, especially if you're a mom and especially if you're trying to work and build a business. It just gives you that 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night to just take it to yourself. So highly recommend that.
Really appreciate your vulnerability and just being like, hey, I'm human. Balance looks different for everyone. Like we're not perfect. So like, I really appreciate you saying that and just being vulnerable, because that's real. We can't like paint like pictures of perfection when we know as humans, that's just not who we are. I'm actually really intrigued by the Vedic meditation. What's that kind of all about? If you could just give us a little behind the scenes.
Yes. So like I said, her name's Patty Quintero. She is such a close friend of mine. She was my birthing doula. So we have seen realms of each other that many people will never experience. And she's a Vedic meditation teacher. She has studied under her guru in India for decades. And it is an Indian philosophy, a lot of focused on Ayurvedic medicine. And what the concept is you are given from your teacher a mantra. And the mantra doesn't necessarily mean anything specific, but it's a neutral word that is held privately, that is given to you by your teacher. And it is a way that when you are meditating, you can consistently say that mantra so that you are able to focus on completely relieving yourself of thoughts, of worries, of concerns. And so you use that mantra and you do it twice a day, 20 minutes at a time. And you sit wherever you're comfortable, with something on your back, not your head back. And you sit there and you say that mantra in your mind over and over and over again in complete, in quiet. And it shows what it's meant to do is to release a lot of the built up stress that is in your body, the things that you don't even realize that you're doing. So the morning ones will be from over the night while you're sleeping. You build up a lot of stress while you're sleeping. So it releases that from overnight. And then the evening one or early evening one is to release the stress of the day. So it's a way just to, whatever you are getting filled with stress during these times, it's a place to release it. And then I just think it's really important to create that stillness in anyone's day, to take that moment to just stop, pause, and reset.
That was a beautiful description. And I love that you were just mentioning like taking that pause for yourself. Obviously, as a mom, as a business owner, as a partner, like all the hats that you wear, being able to kind of take that moment for yourself in the morning and the evening sounds so important and beneficial.
Yeah. And I will say, though, it's not easy. It's not easy all the time to stop. And, when you have food to cook, you have a kid to feed, you have things to do, like there's so many things happening. So it's not every day do I get 2 in. There's just no way sometimes. But I do try to put emphasis on at least once a day, at least. And if I then accidentally miss a day or 2 days, I'll be like, all right, this week I'm doing twice a day for this whole week, So it's, again, it's a practice. You're never going to get perfection, but you can at least try to gain. And once you start seeing the benefits, like I always see a benefit from the meditation in how I respond to stress. So in the middle of my day, my son is screaming. I'm trying to do an email. I don't want him to watch TV, but I have to do the TV. And how I respond to that stress is so much higher than if I were to have meditated that morning. I am such a calmer person and able to control my emotions in such a better sense. So that is the ultimate goal in it as well.
Yeah, it sounds like it allows you to kind of just show up as the best version of yourself that you can for yourself and your son.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So in your opinion, what are the key components of whole person wellness?
Oh, this is always such an interesting topic for me because when I started my wellness journey, I always was like, okay, what do I need to do to feel better? Like what is it to mean to be, a well person? And it was always just like really intense terminology. It was like very philosophical and really deep meaning. And I was like, I'm not in that space to really comprehend what they're saying. Like, just give me the facts. Like, what do I need to do? And so that actually gave me a huge aspect to Wildrock, which is I like to use very straightforward terminology. I don't think this needs to be very detailed. I don't think it needs to be very confusing. It should be very straightforward. So when I think of whole person wellness, I just think it is, finding peace, harmony within your physical, mental, and emotional spaces. And what I mean by that is physically, your body, it's moving, it's resting, it's recovering. Your brain is able to process, store, understand information well. We're constantly getting pummeled with new information through visual, through audio, like it's just constant. So we need to our brain needs to be able to process that properly. And then your emotions, like I just said, you're able to express your emotions in a healthy and calm manner. And that could be by the daily stressors, the phone call that annoyed you, or whatever it is, but you're able to control those emotions in a healthy manner as well.
So how do you tailor wellness programs to meet the unique needs of the touring artists and other aspects that you focus on?
Yeah, artists, as all individuals, are different humans. People have different health goals, have different concerns, have different, some have underlying health issues, some different challenges. So that is ultimately the most important aspect, is to understand from them personally what they're experiencing. So I will just have a group, like a bunch of questions to ask them on their experiences in the touring space. And from there, I'll be able to kind of get an idea of what I'm working with. And then from there, Wildrock has 3 core areas that I focus on. The areas are nutrition, mindfulness, and rest and recovery. And so nutrition is always my number one because food is everything. And that just is basically diverse foods, to sustain mental health. And how I like to do that is artists are constantly moving. They're in different cities almost every single day for 4 to 6 month period. So I like to provide them localized food options in that city that's close to the venue and most of the time delivers because they aren't able to leave the venue. And these are healthier options based around dietary preferences or whatever they're looking for. So that's been probably the biggest one. In addition to that, I also do grocery store and farmers market recommendations that are near the venue. I provide bus grocery lists. Most of the time, these buses do have a kitchen. They're very small, very cramped space, but you do have a fridge, you do have a freezer, you do have a pantry space, and you do have things to cook. So based on what the artist wants to make, possibly, I will create a bus grocery list for them. And then I also help them find easy recipes for snacking, for quick meals. A lot of the times I notice artists completely missing meals, and that's because they just don't have the time, they don't care, and if they'd rather just not deal with it and maybe have a beer instead. And so what I'm trying to do is give them easier options to be like, yo, just grab that from here, grab this from here, and we'll put it together super quick. It'll take 10 minutes and you can just eat that real quick and then go to sound check. So that's some of the stuff that I do for the nutrition. Mindfulness. Huge proponent of mindfulness. I think it's so important, especially for artists. It's important for everyone, but especially for artists because they're just having constant stimulation. So these would be techniques for stress management and mental clarity. All of these techniques and forms of healing that I recommend to people are all concierge and private, meaning I will find healers localized to that specific city, and I will have them come out to either the venue, a hotel, maybe a nearby park, wherever it is, to do their form of healing. And some forms have been breath work. I've done sound baths, cupping, acupuncture, guided meditations. I've done stretch therapy. Body work's been a big one. So it could be anything from a simple massage. It could be Reiki, yoga practice. So mindfulness is really large, but there's different forms that you can do depending on what the artist is looking for. And then the final one is rest and recovery, which is so important. It's so important. And I think that a lot of the times it is looked like over when you think of wellness. And especially for touring musicians, they really have a hard time stopping and recovering their bodies. So these would just be sleep optimization and recovery strategies. Things that I have seen beneficial in the past have been, float therapy, which is also called self-deprivation tanks. Those are really good. Restorative yoga for like more of a moving meditation, recovery, restorative. Cold water therapy is just one of my number ones. I'm a firm believer in cold water therapy for all things, but for physical is huge. I also love IV therapy. A lot of my clients are drinking excessively, are tired. So I like to look at an IV therapy as a way to replenish them of vital nutrients that they may have been depleted from. So that's a big one. And then like supplementation, creating supplementation plans for them ahead of tour has also been pretty helpful for their recovery.
Amazing. I love that you mentioned really creating plans that are really tailored to the artist. And the first thing that you mentioned was finding out kind of like what's going really well for them, but also like what are maybe some challenges and barriers that they're facing, and then really trying to support them in those challenges and barriers. Also super unique to hear. I never thought about like how much behind the scenes stuff is going on. The grocery list, like finding local vendors, like local healers, different grocery stores, like spaces like that. Super inspiring.
Well, it's funny. My early days when I would have artists on tour and I would be like going out to shows or multiple shows, I'd be flying out to go see them. And the foods that they would have in their buses and in the green rooms were disturbing. Just cookies and M&Ms and popcorn, just like the food was ridiculous. And then we always make a joke, and this has been every single artist that I've ever worked on, is you always can guarantee they have white bread with some store-bought deli meats that look like they've been there forever, with like the cheese, I don't remember even knowing the name, like the like squared cheese, and you're just like, oh no. And that is what they would live off of. I was like, this is not sustainable, you guys. This is disgusting. When I was thinking about bus grocery lists, I was like, we need to revamp this. I'm all for snacking and I'm all for indulging, but like there's a healthier way to do this. And just giving them that guidance and showing them those ways to do it really is all they are asking for. They don't realize that the moment I give it to them, they then are like, oh, that's so much better. I'm just going to continue doing it like that. Right. And you're like, there you go. So that's ultimately what I want to do for them.
You're like, let's simplify this. Like eating in like a nourishing, fueling way can also be very like accessible. And I know that's kind of like one of your core values you were sharing earlier was like making nutrition accessible, and especially for like really busy people. Obviously artists is what you specialize in, but let's say for busy moms or busy artists or just busy humans in general, what do you feel like are some easy, healthy ways to feel your best? Let's say that you're a really super busy person, whether you're a super busy mom or you're an artist on the road or just a busy human in general. How can you still eat healthy and feel your best?
Yeah, this is such a good one. It can be honestly for everyone. I truly think that every human is busy in their own way, in some way, shape, or form. And a lot of the time, the thing that gets put to the side when you're busy is healthy habits, especially eating well. And so the first thing I always like to tell people is keep it simple. It doesn't need to be this grand recipe that has all these healing herbs and spices and all these things. Keep it simple. You don't want to be overwhelmed, and it needs to be attainable. So that's number one. Number two would be to take the time to properly stock your freezer, pantry, and fridge. This is really important because a lot of us don't have time to go to the grocery store every 2-3 days to get fresh produce. So you want items that you have readily available that are shelf stable, long lasting. Always try to do organic, limited ingredients, no added sugar, low sodium, things that are just there and healthy. So what that could look like for some people, one of my favorite items, cans of wild caught salmon with no added salt. Something you can get multiple servings of. You just keep them in the pantry. You can add that to some limited ingredient sourdough rye crackers, and you can top that with an avocado or hemp seeds or microgreens. It just shows, though, that you don't need to have anything fresh immediately in the fridge. Another good one that I always tell clients is organic frozen veggies that you put in your freezer. They are just so versatile. You can use them in air fryers. You can put them in soups. You can put them in stir fries. And just to have that as a backup when you did not have time to go to the store to get fresh produce is a huge one. Another one that I tell my clients when they are on the road is really helpful is organic rotisserie chickens that you can get whole chickens. That's a good one because you can use it in so many different ways. It's good for 1 week. You can use it added in the stir fry. You can make wraps. You can use it just as a snack. I snack constantly on rotisserie chicken. So does my son. It's just such a great way to just get a quick bite. And the last thing would probably be meal prepping. Meal prepping, I've noticed people get very scared when I say that, but that's actually the opposite of what it's trying to do. What it's trying to do is just to remind you that it really only takes an hour out of your week on a Sunday to meal prep for the entire week. And by entire week, I mean you could meal prep your breakfast, you could meal prep lunch, dinner, and dessert that is already ready for you in your fridge for those 5 days while you're working. Some great examples. One of my favorites for breakfast is overnight oats. Why it's so good is it's a whole balanced meal. You can get everything you need in that. And it's diverse. So you can do one day can be with nut butters and certain berries. The next day can be, honey with different seeds and nuts. It can be all different every single day so you don't get tired of it. Good lunch could be that rotisserie chicken that you got on Sunday, and you just make chicken wraps with a side of hummus and veggies. And for lunches, I always recommend buying bento boxes because you can actually section out what you're going to put in that lunch, close it, put it in the fridge, and then when it's time to go in the morning, you just take it out and you're ready to go. As for dinners, I am a huge believer in slow cookers. Crock-pots, one of my favorite things, especially as a mom, is to be able to do crock-pot dinners. A great one that I always love is getting grass-fed beef at the beginning of a week and creating meatballs and then adding those to some sort of veggie soup. You can then put a side of quinoa or a side of buckwheat on the side, and that is a meal literally for the whole entire week for dinner. And then dessert. I love dessert. I love sweets, but I always am looking for new ways to find, healthy recipes that are good for you, but also curb that sweet tooth because it's hard sometimes. And one of my favorites is frozen nut butter dates. Dates are so high in fiber and they're so good for you. And they definitely curb your sweet tooth. So you just cut them in half, stuff them with nut butter. You can even put some hemp seeds. You can put some flax seeds, some sort of seeds. You even put walnuts, whatever. Put them in the fridge, the freezer in an airtight container. And that will be good for a week, sometimes even longer, even though they never last very long for me because I eat them all the time. So that just basically shows you how when you keep it simple, you plan ahead of time to properly stock everything that you need. And then take those items and meal prep. Use it to your advantage. Take that hour on a Sunday to just prepare it for the week. And using that will actually help you stay healthy, especially in your busy schedule.
Well, you're speaking my love language with the dates and nut butter. I literally just did that with a client this last week. So good. So good. And me too. And I just literally made overnight oats today after I got back from the market. So love that. We're on the same page.
I ate so many overnight oats. Early postpartum with breastfeeding, like they say oats are the best thing to keep your supply up. And so I have just become an oat fanatic and just eat oats constantly. And so I'm always like, everyone should eat oats, like a good sprouted whole grain oat in an overnight oats is so good. And you can just like add the little sweetener, add that there, whatever you're kind of feeling. So it's a very versatile breakfast to make ahead of time.
Yes, sign me up. You are right. You can do so many things with oats. Kind of some big takeaways that I just heard from what we were just talking about is simplify, simplify, simplify. Having a nourishing meal or menu for the week doesn't have to be scary and overwhelming. We can incorporate things like you were saying is rotisserie chicken, frozen veggies, canned fish, our crock pot. All of those things are really simple, accessible, and I think just awesome ways to get in nourishing meals in a really easy way. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
I love all the little tricks. Anything to make it feel simple and not overwhelming is what I'm all about.
What are some common factors that you feel like can really, if we kind of zoom back into the artist, what are maybe some common factors that can negatively impact an artist's health that you kind of saw on the road when touring?
So this is a really interesting question because the average person doesn't really understand what it means to be a touring musician. What is that? Like that doesn't even, you don't know what it looks like. And most people will never know what it looks like. You see an artist playing on tour, you see them at their own show, and that's just what you assume it is. But the lifestyle of a touring musician is grueling. It's relentless. It's unforgiving. And to just give you kind of a little bit of an example, you have to think a lifestyle is kind of something like this. You're a human being. You are taken away from your normal routines at home. That's taken away from family, friends, your community. You're put onto a bus where you are crammed in bunk beds with numerous other people, so all the crew members, and you spend a majority of your time there. So that means you're breathing synthetic air from the AC. You are not outside, like you're not getting fresh air. You're not getting natural sunlight at all. And then you think about like a normal schedule. So some artists play till 12 a.m. Some play till 2. Some play, if you're a DJ, if you're a heavy touring DJ, you will be playing until 8, 10 in the morning, which means you are then going to bed in the morning, waking up in the afternoon. That just throws off your natural circadian rhythm. So that's not good. Sleep disruption. And then you wake up, you get off the bus, go straight into the venue. So there you are. You're getting very little air again, not natural sunlight. You go in, you sound check, you hopefully eat something. Most of the time you're shoving in whatever's available, which is probably a white bread sandwich with gross deli meats and weird looking cheese, just saying. And then you get on stage. I find the stage portion is very interesting because you get on stage and an artist is just pummeled, like the boost of serotonin, of adrenaline from being on stage. It's amazing. You're expressing your creative, you're sharing your music with people, like you're just getting such a high, a natural high. And then you get off stage and it all pummels into the ground. So you get these extreme highs and extreme lows. And then on top of that, you're around thousands of people in different environments, in different climates, 7 days of the week for upwards of 6 months. Like this is just not the way that we see being healthy individuals. So that is what the main factors are when thinking about how it is to be a touring musician. And so when I try to think about how to navigate that, a lot of the times artists live in a different reality while touring. They are kind of like outside of their bodies. Very rarely will they tune into how they truly are feeling. So I always tell them, let's bring a sense of self back into this. So I ask them, how are you feeling? What do you need more of? What is currently hurting you that you cannot get through? And by getting that, it becomes that personalized aspect. So then we can figure out, all right, well, you are clearly depleted. You have been drinking excessively. We need to get some fluids in you. Let's get some IV therapy. You need to sleep. We need to find some sleeping in here. So then we do that. And I think one of the most important aspects to navigating that is also being consistent support. I don't start a tour, give you a plan, and then leave. I am with you throughout the entirety of the tour. So week 3, week 10, and week 25 are very different beasts. Week 3, we're still charging. We're still enjoying. We're still having fun. Week 10, we're struggling. We're having a much rougher time. So that consistent support and knowing that they are heard and that we are tuning into how they are feeling makes it capable to create very customized and personalized plans to help mitigate those feelings and those struggles.
And I may have missed this, you may have said this already, but I'm trying to visualize how this works. I'm imagining, I don't know, like Lady Gaga or Taylor Swift is like, yeah, I want a nutritionist on tour with me. So do you follow one artist and they just meet with you like throughout the week? Or is there like a bunch of bands that are like on a big festival and you're like the go-to? Everyone's like, oh, I got to meet with Ashley this week. And we're like, oh, it was so great meeting with her last week. Can't wait. And they're like, all the bands are talking about their nutritionist, which is you. Is that closer to what it's like?
That's a great question because I get this question all the time, and it's neither. It's neither of those, but it could be, like I'm constantly evolving my business and trying to figure out what's the best way to support artists. But right now, my services are completely remote. I don't need to be in person with anyone at any time unless I feel it's important. Sometimes I like to maybe start a tour, maybe the first few dates I will fly out just to give face, see the person, get like an in-person vibe. I love nothing more than, connecting with someone face to face. It's very different. So that might be one aspect. And then obviously if they're struggling really intensely and they need some extra support, I will fly out there so we can just sit down and discuss what's happening. But how my services work is I will get contacted by an artist or a manager before a tour starts. And before a tour starts, you have everything set in stone. You have routing, which means it is a city by city schedule of where you were going, what venue you were playing, what the capacity of the venue is, the location of it, everything that you possibly need. So I will go through routing to see how many dates you have, what kind of capacity venues you're playing, because that'll dictate whether you are getting catering or not. Catering is like the venue provides food for you. So that would be like, okay, if you're getting catering, then we should have a say on what they are offering. I would say a majority, the tours that I do are not large enough. I have done a few here and there, but it mainly is more like smaller tours. So from there, we look at everything. You look at your budget, we look at dietary premises, we look at what you're looking for, and then I will create a customized plan based around those three pillars that we spoke about: nutrition, mindfulness, rest and recovery, and come up with a plan for them that I will then deliver and say, all right, this is what I think we need to do. I will then facilitate all communications between the artists, between healers, and provide them all the information they need. And then it will be weekly support. So I like to do it towards the end of a week, unless they need additional support, which I'm available all the time. They just text me and we'll jump on a call. And then every week we will revise the plan accordingly.
Imagining like a lot of those post-hardcore emo bands that are like straight edge vegan. And they're like, yeah, I just heard about this like nutritionist, Ashley. She's just golden. And just like them like passing around your card and you're like showing up to like Warped Tour or something like that.
I mean, let me know when I can be the wellness support for Warped Tour, because I am in. I'll have my own booth and just be like, come on in. Figure this out. It's nostalgia. Are you joking? That's goals, Dustin. That's my goal.
Yeah. Well, I am a musician myself. I am not quite as famous as the people that you probably are working with, because I just write vitamin songs, my clients essentially.
Please send me vitamin songs. You have to send me a link to that, because I may or may not be putting these in my wellness programs now as motivation.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, you can find Dustin on Spotify. He has vitamin songs. You gotta look him up.
You can plan for your clients, and if they're like, this music is bad, and you could say like, hey, send your vitamin song and we'll post it.
Or like, this is amazing. Such a great message. We should have him open for us.
Or playing them for your son. I mean, it's like vitamin A, vitamin E. It like tells you all it's really cute.
My brother-in-law just yesterday was like, hey, I had your vitamin A song stuck in my head. And like when my niece would get in a really bad mood, they would play the vitamin songs and she would like stop crying.
Right?
I can't wait to get to these. I'm just going to do background music for Baz. Are you joking?
I also was really curious, so you kind of talked a little bit about this, I feel like, but I guess since you're not really traveling as much, but your clients are like all over the map. So how does traveling schedules and like lifestyle choices affect artists' like physical and mental well-being? And what sort of strategies do you recommend to kind of like mitigate these impacts?
Yeah, I mean, the schedules, like I gave you such a great example and just like how grueling it actually is. When you put it into, you try to visualize it, it's not easy. Like, it's not an easy job. Again, if you are the Taylor Swifts or the Lady Gagas of the world, you are creating such massive income that you probably have a full team dedicated to cooking good foods for you, sleeping when you need to. Like, these are different beasts. Like, I am focusing more on, those artists that are still traveling and performing and have a great following, but might not necessarily have the budget to hire a personal trainer or wellness coach directly with them on tour. I like to provide, like we saw, attainability. And I also work on a sliding scale, meaning that the artists that can afford more, I try to request a little bit more from them. And then the ones that can, I will definitely try to offset it, because I do want to make it so that everyone can do this and that they can create the tools to use for further, like, future tours that they necessarily won't need me all the time. So that's definitely what I think about that. But some of the strategies that I did use, like things that I just have used in the past to kind of like sum it up, is one thing are boundaries. Like, creating boundaries for any human is important, but for musicians in particular, creating boundaries that can be everything from promo, like, no, I'm not doing promo 6 days a week that starts at 4:30 in the morning. Like, it's not going to happen. Like things like that, creating boundaries within personal relationships on tour. Like, no, I don't like when you come into my space at this time because it pisses me off. Like, just simple things like that. Creating boundaries are so important. One that has worked so well for me is creating party schedules. What I mean by that is a lot of artists indulge. They indulge a lot. And of course they do. They're rock stars. The rock and roll lifestyle. But a lot of the time that can lead to severe consequences. And I've seen it myself. I've seen artists go into rehab. I've seen them struggle so bad from indulging too much. And so when I would say probably 80 to 90% of my clients are not sober. They do drink, they do partake. And so I always tell them ahead of tour, let's put a schedule on it. Let's look at your routing and let's see how we can incorporate a schedule. So, this week in particular, you have 2 hometown shows, which means you are going to have friends, family. You're probably going to have an after party. You are going to be partying. All right, well, then the next 3 days we're going to take off. We will do IV therapy the day after. Let's get some fluids. Let's get some stuff into you. The next day, maybe let's go get a massage, whatever it is. But putting a schedule on what you're indulging in definitely helps them stay a little bit more on track and not get carried away. And then I just think too, wellness programs, they work in some ways, sometimes they don't work. And so I think it's important that artists feel comfortable enough to open up directly to me and be transparent when something doesn't work. And if it does work, we acknowledge that and use that modality that works well and stay consistent with it. Because when you find the things that work, you want to continue on that path, because those are the things that are going to help you stay healthy while you are away from home, because they feel good. So I think those are probably some of the main strategies that I have seen work very well.
Love a party schedule. Like, that is so fun. That's brilliant. Also, actively working on boundaries in therapy. So love that you mentioned that. Like, that there is so much value in boundaries. I wish I learned this, 20 years ago. Those are such great points, but also mentioning like leveraging what is going well for them on the road and then really trying to build on that, I think, is huge. And earlier on in our conversation, you mentioned a lot of different holistic approaches that you take with your clients. You're mentioning you'll have maybe different practitioners meet them on the road, whether it be with breath work, stretch, yoga, massage, and being able to kind of create that holistic space for them. But can you also talk a little bit more about the rest and recovery piece?
It's just, okay, this is a great story. So when I went back to school, I went to get a BA in health and wellness. And so it's a very general, just a very broad understanding of what it means. And so I just wanted to go to just kind of get a good idea of what it looked like, what it meant. And one of the number one pillars that they pressed into your brain the most was personal fitness, physical fitness, which, of course, for the average person working a 9-to-5 desk job that is sedentary most days, physical fitness is so crucial. You must have it. But when I started looking at touring musicians, I realized that, the number one issue among the touring community is burnout. And so I was like, they shouldn't be forced to exercise more. Like, sure, if you have a physical fitness routine that you enjoy, absolutely continue to do that. But we need to find ways for our body to reset and then recover from all the physical, mental, emotional stressors that you get on the road. And if you don't have those recovery practices, your body can immediately go into fight or flight mode, and then you burn out, you're exhausted, you can't keep going. And it looks so different for so many people, but you want to try to avoid that burnout. And that's when I realized that physical fitness should not be a core area that I am, like putting in my approaches, but rest and recovery is so much more important. So that's when I changed it. And what that means for me is I want to find ways for my artists to stop, like we talked about earlier, even with meditation, just to stop and relax both your mind and your body. And you can do it so many different ways. As much as I would love to say, can you go sleep? Please go sleep. That sometimes just isn't possible. Also, when you're on a bus in a bunk bed that's like tiny, sometimes that's not even sleep. You can't sleep well. So, one of my favorites is like a restorative yoga practice. It's a moving meditation. You're restoring parts of your body. Your organs are getting a rest. I love that one. And it's also moving, which I think is important. I have found great success with float therapy. That is the self-deprivation tanks, which I mentioned earlier. And that is, if you don't know what that is, you are put into it's literally a tank that is closed, and the water that it fills up, it's halfway filled up with water that is skin temperature, so around 98, and it's filled with Epsom salt. So the salt itself puts you into like a floating state, so you don't have to do any type of movement, you just float. And it is completely silent and completely dark. So it's taking you away from all of your senses, your visual, your audio, and your physical body does not have to move. And what it's supposed to do is promote deep relaxation. And it also helps improve sleep for the prior night, the night coming up. So I always see if we can find some sort of float tank in a city to be like, yo, let's go for an hour. Just go real quick. People show great, like, oh, I feel rested. Thanks for that. So that's a big one, body work, massages, acupuncture. Acupuncture and cupping I love because it just like moves some energy, moves some chi, moves some blood, stagnant blood. That's always a good one. And then, of course, supplementations, IV therapy are always big. Artists on the road rarely are taking supplements and are rarely getting the nutrients that they need. I like to start always with food. I feel like everyone can get the vital nutrients that they need through food, but even I take supplements. And so I always like to recommend that as well for artists. And the IV therapy will be concierge. So I will vet and make sure they are a credible company that then will come out to them, whether it be the hotel or the venue, to just give them an IV drip for, 45 minutes.
Okay. Can you share a success story of an artist who significantly benefited from your wellness programs?
Oh, yeah. I love it. It's so great. That's honestly my favorite part of my job is seeing the difference in them after, a tour. One of my favorite stories was I launched Wildrock right as I found out I was pregnant. So I did some jobs and then I went on maternity leave. And originally I was like, all right, 4 months after postpartum, I'm getting back into this business. And in like 4 months, I was like, I can't even put a shirt on. What do you mean? My brain doesn't even work that way. Then 6 months happened, 9 months. And I just physically had such a hard time taking my mind out of postpartum mom brain and into a working brain. I was like, there's just no way. And so I was really fighting against it. And in my 10 years in management, I created such a great network of other managers, of agents, people that I had relied on when I launched Wildrock to be like, hey, this is not a service that is offered. So if anyone is interested, please let me know. So around the year mark of postpartum, I got a call from a manager that I loved working with. I worked at the same management company as him for many years. And he was like, yo, I just went to go visit a client of mine. He is like, I think it was like 6 weeks into tour. He is struggling so bad. And I mentioned you and what you did. And I think it'd be interesting if you had a call with him. So when I get on the call with this person, you can verbally hear he is not doing great. He sounds tired. He sounds, not excited, which you work so much to get to that point of being on tour. You should be excited. He did not sound excited. So I was like, all right, let's figure out what's going on. What do you need? And so we created a plan that was based heavily around nutrition. So we did lots of localized recommendations for healthy food options. Luckily, he was a very great eater and liked to eat good things. So it made it a lot easier. And then, he was really adamant on sleep and mindfulness. So we did concierge breath work twice, sometimes 3 times a week. And it would be in every city that we would find someone. He would come out and do, an hour. Sometimes he would do 2-hour sessions with people where he just got so much, not rest and mindfulness, but also creative flow for his sets. Like sometimes he'd come out and then be like, oh my God, I'm firing up. I am ready. And then the other one was just sleep optimization. And he didn't have the option to go do specific things. So we just did a really great kind of like a more of a magnesium-based topical oral plan to like help with his sleeping. We did, essential oils. We did, like eye masks, blue light glasses, like things that just like help calm his mind and create better sleep patterns. And I will never forget, it was the final week of tour and I was with him for, I think, 6 weeks, and the final week of tour, and I called and the dude sounded just so excited, jacked, like, I feel amazing. And he said to me, I can never imagine touring without you again. And I just was like, see, that's literally what this is about. This is about helping people enjoy their job. That is a great job. It's such a fun job, but you need to also take the precautions to make sure that you continue to enjoy it. You don't want to resent it. So that has been, for me, that story and other clients that I've worked with is just hearing the difference in their tone, their excitement, their overall vibe at the end of tour has been by far the best success story always. Yeah.
That sounds like you're making a difference one artist at a time.
And that's ultimately what is going to take, because I'm happy to call it out because that's the only way that I get traction. But this issue is an issue industry-wide. It's not specific to an artist. It's specific to the music business. And it doesn't stop at artists. It goes to managers. It goes to label execs. It goes to, agents. All these people are living in a very unhealthy lifestyle of just that constant profit, go, go, go. And although it has worked for so long, it necessarily isn't working anymore. It doesn't work. And we are now more aware that these certain little changes can definitely change the way an industry works in a whole. And so I think that, yes, it just takes one artist at a time to make a change. But I also do think that it takes the industry itself to open its eyes and say, this is an issue and we're losing people. People are not able to tour anymore. People are canceling tours, and notice that it's an issue and start putting financial backing to wellness support on tours. So I've been having conversations with people at more of a global touring level rather than artist level to try to see if we can start making that change and hope for a change in the industry as a whole. So yes, it's very important.
I'm glad that there are things that people are trying, even with touring musicians. I've thought for a while that I know companies are like, you get 1 hour off for your lunch, but wouldn't it be great if they paid you to have a wellness hour? Where, and I think encouragement, like when you like work for a company where everyone's kind of like, yeah, I ate a salad today, and with some different things, and your boss is like, whoa, it's amazing. Who else has had a salad today? High fives. Like, you'd feel like excited. You'd be like, yeah, I did that in 20 minutes. And then I took a nap.
Yeah.
And I would be like, oh my gosh, you took a nap. Yeah, I don't know.
Let's normalize nap pods in companies. That sounds great. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Napping.
I think that wellness in corporations shows your company. It shows the people that are working for you that you care about how they're feeling, that you care that they don't want to sit at a desk from 9 to 5. This is a outdated concept. It truly is. And we no longer need to sit to get our work done. We can do it anywhere at any time and say, you know what? I'm not going to do a meeting from this time to this time because I must do my hot yoga practice. Good for you. That's exactly what you should be doing. Yeah. So to put those, like we say, boundaries, so important. And a company that shows they care, and an industry like the music industry to show their artists that we are not seeing you just as dollar bills. We are not seeing you just as money. We are seeing you as human beings that are making money for us and creating art that people love. So let's put emphasis on making sure that you can do that job for a very long time and in a healthy manner. And hopefully over time, I'm starting to see the shift. I'm hoping over time, the more conversations I have, that people start waking up a little bit and know that there needs to be a change.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, something you said about like profit and go, go, go. But imagine if all your employees were just super well. Think of how much more efficient they would be at doing their job. I mean, when our healthcare costs are like through the roof.
And
When my parents were young, they said it was so much more affordable.
absolutely. And I always, I think it's really important to acknowledge that, yes, my approach for my business is full holistic lens. Like I love to use the natural world. I love to use preventative actions, lifestyle choices to help prevent chronic issues, chronic health issues. But I do believe there is a time and place for both Western and Eastern medicine. But what I think is more important is that we should be utilizing the holistic realm of healing in corporations or in our daily lives to help and complement our Western medical. A lot of people can't afford health insurance. So it's like, okay, what can we do to just keep our immunity up or decrease inflammation or improve our sleep that makes us not have to go right off the bat to go get the prescription medication that is super expensive that you cannot afford. So I think it's really interesting to put an emphasis on holistic healing as a way to complement other forms.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and my last follow-up question on what you were sharing earlier about some of the feedback you received from, this artist. You said this guy was like, "Wow, I feel good from all the changes we've made." Has there been any other feedback that you've received from artists about the impact of your programs on their like performance and overall health that you want to share?
Yeah, and I will say this was me as well when I started on my wellness journey. A lot of artists can't believe how easy it is. Every time they're like, shit, I thought this was going to be like, I was working day in and day out to eat well. And you're like, no, it's really not as difficult. And, it's like this dark looming cloud, like, oh no, I have to get healthy. It's like, no. It really is easy. And it truly is just about taking those unhealthy habits that have just been ingrained in your brain and just slowly but surely chipping away at breaking those. And then once you break them, you start feeling really good. And who wouldn't want to keep following that? You're sleeping well, your skin looks great, your hair's growing, whatever. You're feeling good. So then you continue that. So yeah, they always talk about how easy it is once they get the lay of the land. They're like, easy, great, I can continue this. And you're like, okay, great, keep going.
It's probably also just like your very approachable way that you deal with your clients, but like making it like accessible, simple, approachable probably is a huge part of that. And we love a success story. We obviously at Discovering the Wellness Formula, we always like to kind of end it with advice for everyday life. Our goal is to make wellness accessible, make it easy, simple, all the things that you've been sharing with us. So do you have any kind of advice just for maybe the average person that is trying to either embark on a wellness journey or kind of dip their toe in the water?
Yes. I've worked with my family, I've worked with friends as well as artists, and the one thing I always tell them is put in the work, just do it. Accept that challenge. In the beginning, like we said, it can be very confronting because you're changing habits from that's all you've ever known. And so it's very confronting. It's very challenging, but accept it because deep down you need it. And when you put in the work, it does become worth it. You realize that the consistency and the putting in the effort to change your diet or change certain things about your living, it creates healthier habits. And then who doesn't want to feel better? So accept the challenge, work hard to achieve that goal, and then stay consistent, continue on that path. And I think having those set in stone ahead of time helps you be successful and helps you change for the long term.
I think it reminds me of the word you were mentioning earlier, surrender. Surrender to the process.
Yes. It's such a good mantra for just anything. I literally have it written places. Surrender, because life's crazy. Life's crazy. Things happen at the most unexpected times when you least want them to happen. But when you surrender to the fact that it's happening, and when you have the best tools possible to handle it mentally and emotionally, your physical will show. You will benefit it also from it physically. So just surrender and accept it and roll with it. Ride the waves. Ride the waves.
Ride the wave, baby. I love it. I love it. Take us home with some maybe simple, actionable steps that someone could take that is trying to improve their health.
Mm-hmm. And talk about bento boxes too.
Bento boxes.
The bento boxes?
Okay, yeah, but because there's so many different kinds. There's so many. There's infinite ones.
Surrender to the fact that they all might work. So whatever you're feeling, bento box, you go what's best for you. You know that?
Love it.
All right. So some things that I always like to tell people: listen to your body. Your body is your greatest teacher. It always will steer you in the right direction. And deep down when it's steering you in a place that's probably not great. So always listen to your body. Tune in. Really try to feel how it's working, how it's going, how your mind is working. Tune in. And it's okay when you're not doing great. Not doing great is very common. So just accept it and work on ways to feel better. Always follow your gut. And I mean that physically and literally. Your gut microbiome is so important. So follow that. Improve your gut microbiome as well as follow your gut. When you're not supposed to be doing something or something's not good for you. So continue that. And then, as always, eat the rainbow. Eat the rainbow. It's so important. That's such a good one. And it's an easy way to remember. Eat diverse, organic fruits, vegetables of all different shades of colors, okay? They're all filled with specific nutrients. And when you get a large spread of that, you are just pummeling yourself with beautiful things that help your body work, your organs, everything is working smoothly. So always eat the rainbow.
We love a colorful plate and nutrition by addition, right? It's about what can we add in there into your diet to make it more diverse, more colorful. What a great kind of high note to end this conversation. Ashley, thank you so much for such an incredible conversation. Really, your journey in the music industry as well as wellness is such a powerful reminder of really how health and creativity go hand in hand. And you really, truly are changing the game. It's exciting to hear the conversations that you're having on local level, but also a global level, as you were saying. And whether you're an artist, a music lover, or someone just looking to prioritize their wellness, there are so many takeaways from this conversation with you and your approach to personalized, accessible health. If you want to learn more about Ashley and her work, be sure to check out Wildrock Wellness. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little extra wellness in their life. Until next time, take care and keep prioritizing your health, because wellness is for everyone. Our podcast, Discovering the Wellness Formula, dives into all domains of health, whether it's discussing mental health strategies, nutrition tips, fitness approaches, or exploring how relationships and personal growth contribute to our overall well-being. We aim to make wellness more accessible and inclusive for everyone.